everybody! It's me, Carmine DiStefano, the Bookman. Being a ridiculously humongous Mass Effect fan, Mass Effect 3 most coincidentally, I have seen a lot of videos about a lot of theories involving the ending of the trilogy itself. By ending, I of course mean EA's opportunity to make us all shell out as much dough as possible to see what exactly had happened. Of course, there are some that have stated the evidence to assess one idea or another, but I'm going to point out the details revolving around the fact that this was not at all the ending. This was all a trap set up by Reaper Indoctrination. So much has already been laid out for all to see. The fact that Shepard awakes closer to the conduit than when the commander was shot down. The fact that only 3 husks and a marauder stand between Shepard and the soft underbelly of the Reaper defense. The fact that the interior and exterior are both surrounded by piles of Ashley and Caden corpses. The fact Shepard has a Canafax with unlimited ammo suddenly. The fact that Shepard has been seeing the oily shapes in his dreams Arachni Queen mentioned when detailing her people being indoctrinated during the wars. The fact those shapes increase during the games. The fact Shepard's hearing roaring noises. The fact James keeps bringing up.
Do you hear that hum? Is that just me?
The fact that inside the Citadel, Anderson arrives at the main console first. The fact that the elusive man who the Reapers attacked directly due to his threatening research was hanging around waiting for his 2 biggest adversaries to arrive like, hey man, how's it going? The fact that Shepard favors the gunshot wound Anderson had gotten rather than that which was given to the commander before taking the conduit up. The fact this ghost child is the kid that keeps popping up in Shepard's dreams. The fact no one else knows this kid exists. The fact this kid walks through a door that doesn't open only to survive an explosion without a scratch. The fact that the ghost child contradicts itself and gives no real viable information more so than what Shepard already knows.
We help them ascend so they can make way for new life, storing the old life in Reaper form. Even you are partly synthetic.
The fact that the control option is in Paragon Blue, but the destroy option is in Renegade Red. And finally, the fact that destroying the Reapers is the only way Shepard actually survives. All these aspects reveal at least the possibility that they are all part of a dream sequence carrying over in Shepard's mind. Let me state this clearly. Shepard is not about to be indoctrinated by the Reapers. Shepard is indoctrinated. How can I be so certain? We hear talk of this signal that bores into people's brains suddenly since the first Mass Effect. All come in contact with Sovereign in some form or another, end up dealing with it, being compelled to do what it wants without even them understanding it. We've also seen in the 3rd Mass Effect, Shepard stating anyone that was inside a Reaper would be under Reaper indoctrination. That's interesting since we had a mission on a fucking derelict Reaper. A Reaper that turned a science team studying it nuts before transforming them into husks. Throughout the entire 2nd Mass Effect, Shepard's finding or researching Reaper technology. In fact, the Arrival DLC has Shepard flashed by a Reaper artifact. Let's face it, folks, Shepard is indoctrinated. Even so, there seems to be some denial towards the evidence that has already been put forward. Allow me to come up with some other nifty facts that no one else seems to point out. First off, during the walk towards the central console, anyone notice how the first area is practically identical to the interior of the Collector ship, and how the shifting area is, without a doubt, the Shadow Broker's ship? Could it be the Reapers making Shepard believe the commander has gone into some rather expansive area of technological advances that hadn't been grasped before? Moving on to bigger things, why does the elusive man suddenly look like a husk in this? Why was he able to maintain his human form apart from the eyes, then suddenly appear as though he's been tearing away pieces of his face? Why is it he resembles Saren after it was revealed Saren had been implanted? And why can you convince the elusive man to commit suicide as you did Saren in the first one? Once again, the Reapers could be utilizing memories Shepard had of a similar instance in the past to give off the impression a rather elaborate choice was at hand. After all, the Reapers wanted the elusive man's sanctuary torn down due to his information on controlling Reaper troops. Why the fuck would they permit him to hang at the central chamber? And by the way, if he was really doing his homework, why go through so much trouble when all he had to do was connect himself into the core of the Citadel's AI network and take the goddamn thing over? If he was so controlled by the Reapers as the Ghost Child said, why were they trying to shut down his Reaper force controlling sanctuary? Remember, Shepard is just a grunt. Perhaps there is so much Shepard doesn't understand and the Reapers are using that to their advantage. Whatever the case may be, speaking to a child resembling the child that had been haunting Shepard's dreams sounds more like the Reapers having wormed into the commander's brain and exploiting an image of innocence and failure. Now, it's been brought before, how are they speaking when they're out in space? There's no protective covering keeping them from being sucked in the eternal vacuum or pulling a total recall and watching Shepard's head explode due to the lack of gravity in air. After Shepard makes a decision, a large beam takes the commander's DNA and transfers it to the Reapers throughout the universe, or has it control them, or has the conduit destroyed to wipe them all out. However, after that is all said and done, there are ships still flying around the immediate vicinity. The child tells Shepard,
"The Crucible will not discriminate. All synthetics will be targeted."
These ships are synthetic, run by forms of synthetic intelligence. If Shepard's implants were supposedly going to kill the commander upon destruction, how are these ships going to maintain their flight patterns or stay up in space at all? Why is it the Normandy looks badly damaged and crashes into a remote planet while outrunning the blast, but the ships within the radius are perfectly fine? Oh yeah, and what exactly did we do in the Arrival DLC? We destroyed a mass relay utilizing the crude method of bashing an asteroid into the main power source. This large beam overloads every power source to destroy every mass relay throughout the entire universe. If one mass relay can take out a system, why wouldn't every single mass relay wipe out the entire universe? Forget Reapers, there would be nothing left at all. What really kills the idea that this ending is possibly anything more than an indoctrinated dream sequence or Reapers screwing with Shepard's mind has been stated previously. Shepard awakes after only the destroy option is taken. Didn't we all see Shepard require 2 years and cutting-edge technology to be rebuilt in the beginning of Mass Effect 2 while wearing full body armor? How in the shit could the commander survive an exploding citadel and being spaced again in barely any body armor? The extended ending proves more so it's all an illusion as we see the future of the galaxy, Shepard's crew putting up a monumental nameplate, returning from this far-off planet without a mass relay, and then Shepard arises from being spaced outside an exploding citadel without true body armor. Wouldn't Shepard have woken up in a mausoleum or some kind of tribute to the commander? Would the most influential person in the entire war simply be left aside on the streets of London for so long after bringing peace? Perhaps we are seeing the future as it would be, then reverting back to the current time. Still, Shepard's survival poses that question. How? People attribute all of this to bad writing. Bad writing is another term for I don't understand. You mean to tell me that the same group was made us feel for fictional beings of a universe that doesn't exist in 3 games, including this particular game, simply dropped the ball at the most important part of the trilogy? They can make a person we whip together off the top of our heads into a heroic figure on so many levels. They can figure out ways to fight battles recruiting people. They can come up with so many believable villains, aliens, governments, and scenarios, but when it comes to an ending, they simply forgot how to write? There is far more to this than what they will dick you around with on Twitter. After pointing out all of those holes in one 15-minute segment, I think we can all agree on one thing. There's bad writing, and then there's fucking amnesia. The company that could find a place for Conrad freaking Werner and Jenna from the godforsaken Cora's Den Flux angle cannot simply ignore such scientific laws that they haven't ignored so far. Again, bad writing is another way for people to say, I don't get it. BioWare has never suffered such a lapse. That in itself makes it obvious to me this is all taking place in an indoctrinated mind that can't grasp most concepts inherent in such grandiose conflicts. Not to mention, if you gather enough war assets, you see the fleet making mincemeat of the Reapers over Earth. The Reapers were always thought of being exposed if the entire galaxy fought them. Shepard made that happen. Shepard killed 3 Reapers before this battle in London and even found a weak spot to exploit during it. Why would they even need this magic blast from the Citadel to begin with? And by the way, if I may point out the amount of times a well-crafted script mentions the word control and all of its variations during the meeting with the Elusive Man and the so-called Ghost Child.
Control, 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 control,
Control, control, control.
You'd think the Reapers were using subliminal messaging along with shady images of the Elusive Man brandishing some form of biotic magic to command loyalty between Shepard and Anderson. And where did the Elusive Man get this power? He was studying Reaper forces control and Reaper control, not human control. Doesn't this all seem like a fantasy based on a lesser mind? Again, the mind of a grunt that doesn't fully understand what's going on? This whole sequence doesn't seem real. Why is it Shepard is taken up on the elevator right when it looks like the commander is about to die? Why is it the commander can communicate with Admiral Hackett when Shepard's armor is completely destroyed? Why was Shepard able to speak with Anderson when Anderson was also in a blast via comm channels that don't seem to exist after taking such a laser beam-induced beatdown? By the way, speaking of Anderson, why is it Shepard's completely fucked up and Anderson suffered a few cuts upon the lip and around the eyes? He's just wearing a uniform and a hat. Going back to the Elusive Man along with Shepard, I heard that the Truth DLC would be coming out sometime in the near future back in April. The talk was Shepard's constant exposure to Reaper tech led to indoctrination. I pointed out the Reaper the commander went into to retrieve the IFF as well as Project Rho. Let's consider this. We know that the Elusive Man's been sporting these indoctrinated eyes since the beginning of Mass Effect 2. We know that Cerberus has been doing some shady shit under his regime as well as using Reaper tech to advance a rogue VI that turned unaligned soldiers into the AI we call EDI. What if Project Lazarus's cutting-edge technology was actually Reaper technology? What if those implants they put into Shepard were made from Reaper parts, or even parts from Sovereign retrieved off the Citadel? After all, Anderson talks about most of what was left to Sovereign being unaccountable based on salvagers and such. The Elusive Man is seen in his vids speaking about salvaging those pieces to help construct EDI.
Something to think about.
I've heard this other theory regarding the beings of light. It's a cute theory and all, but let's really look at it. We're talking about something mentioned in Mass Effects 1 and 3 when scanning a planet in the Newton system of Voyager cluster called Clentharoi. Apparently a Volus businessman set up mercenary groups waiting on this planet for the beings of light to save them from the machine devils. Right away we can dispel that since the Volus was hearing voices in his head. Hearing voices in your head means indoctrination. The idea of Clentharoi having intel in the third one pointing out that the Reapers quickly destroyed the Volus and his mercenaries before moving on to a more important location should be more than enough evidence to discount that. This ghost child is not a being of light, it's a Reaper-induced hallucination based on the image of a child that had haunted Shepard's mind since the opening of Mass Effect 3. The Reapers aren't beings of light, considering the only light we see is that ray they use to wipe out everything in their path. Also, you want to talk bad writing, basing the end of your most ambitious series on 2 lines of information no one would even read had it not been pointed out is bad writing. You can't simply introduce the possibility of something at the end after touching up on it in the beginning. Besides, Reaper indoctrination is a recurring theme throughout the entire trilogy. It even has its own damn subtext in the game's codex.
Reaper indoctrination is an insidious means of corrupting organic minds.
BioWare would have to add a whole new entry into the series just to explain where this lore comes from, as well as how it relates to this controversial finish to the 3rd entry. Whatever the case may be, the truth will not be given to any of us for a long time. We know BioWare, and especially EA, will milk this out and make us all debate this, leading to more interest globally and more money in their pockets. With all that being said, don't go for the synthesis or control ending. It's a trap! Thank you all for watching. I have more for you soon to come. So stay tuned, take care, and have a great day.